Hey, what's up, everyone? Dragon back again with another edition of the Kaiju Commentary. And today we are watching the epic Kaiju Mecha Showdown, Pacific Rim. Now, when you see the legendary logo forming on your screen, that is your cue to start listening to us. We're going to kick things off in 3, 2, 1. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Kaiju Commentary. Today we are watching Pacific Rim. I was waiting for maybe some kind of addition from the crowd here. I got nothing.
I'm excited to see this movie again.
I know. This was considered kind of the first film in what they call the new kaiju renaissance.
Mainstream kaijuism.
Yeah. It is kind of strange, too, because a lot of people thought the word kaiju was something invented just for this movie. But since this movie, now the word kaiju is used everywhere, like in pop culture, even in other kaiju films where they're not referred to as kaiju in the West, people still call them that. Like in
it's a fun word to say.
Yeah, and it's cool, and it makes them very distinctive. So even like when Godzilla came out the following year, you know, they weren't called kaiju in those films, but people kept referring to them as kaiju, and I was so, as a fan, was so happy to see that become part of mainstream.
That kids wouldn't beat you up for saying the word kaiju anymore.
Well, they never beat me up to begin with because I was always a monster, but.
So you were
I forgot, you've been training your whole life to be just like a kaiju.
Have you seen my gym workout? Hell yeah, I'm a kaiju. And again, just seeing this, like, big giant monsters knocking down a bridge, jets flying into it.
I mean, was there a kaiju movie that's had this budget, like, anywhere near this budget?
Not this budget, no, just because, again, this was, like, kind of the first really modern... And the fact that this is a big mainstream Hollywood movie, and it's so weird too because I've been on that bridge I don't know how many times, so it's so weird for me seeing a landmark that I grew up with. And that's one of the things too, I know a lot of people say, oh, it's not the same thing if it doesn't take place in Japan. That's awesome, by the way. But for someone who grew up in America on the West Coast, it was kind of cool seeing now kaiju destroy landmarks that I was really familiar with. Like to see the Golden Gate Bridge get destroyed, that was crazy for me.
Yeah, that's why I was so excited in Rampage when they started going towards Chicago.
Yeah. That's insane. See, I love how, though...
It's part of the world.
Yeah, I love how this has become a world where kaiju... Kind of like when we always watched the Godzilla movies and we were saying, you know, like, you know, what would be, like, the defense plans? What would the governments be like in the world now, in a world where there's giant monsters attacking? Would foreign powers still be fighting each other anymore? If kaiju are real... who would be fighting each other anymore? And I kind of like how this is showing a world where, essentially, in a weird way, there's kind of world peace because we have a much larger threat to deal with that we can't afford to fight each other anymore.
I feel like you'd like much prefer to live in that world.
In a weird way, I kind of do. I think I'm less afraid of giant monsters than I am human beings. Because with the giant monsters... You know what they're going to do. Yeah, you know what's up. Whereas human beings, I think, are more diabolical in nature. So I'd kind of rather deal with this. Because it brings everyone together.
Yeah, you know what a monster is going to do at all times.
Yeah.
You know if you're going to get backstabbed by your friend or whatever.
Oh, exactly. And I love how... This is awesome. I want this seat, by the way. But no, I love the fact that because we started winning, kaiju attacking had become like a normal thing, and essentially this has just become glorified border patrol, basically. So now it's almost cool. Like people talk, you know, it's almost like the Jaeger pilots are like sports teams. Like there's no more this like
awesome
threat. Yeah, people aren't like
it's
afraid
just like
anymore.
Human nature, like you just deal with
yeah.
whatever.
Like look at these guys. Like
are going on.
Like Charlie Hunnam's character here, like they're being called to fight a kaiju, and he's excited because in his mind they're not going to lose because up until this point the kaiju have been manageable. So for him it's fun. Like, hey, let's go get in a giant robot and fight giant monsters. It's like a kid's dream, you know. Like, but I like how this movie is showing you kind of what brought the Jaeger program down. It's almost like this arrogance, thinking like, okay, we were on top, we're running the show, but then things changed. The enemy essentially upgraded and got more dangerous. So essentially, it's really arrogance that brought us down. We stopped improving. You know, they weren't improving the Jaeger. A little bit, obviously, but for the most part, the Jaeger program probably didn't go through.
They were probably working more commercial.
Yeah.
for a little bit, then upgrades.
Yeah, I get the sense that by this point they've kind of plateaued a lot. I mean, there were still some developments, but I think in the early days of the program when they were getting their asses kicked, they were developing better Jaegers overnight. Whereas now they're like, okay, there's some new models coming out, they're getting a little bit better, but not like it used to be because hey, we're winning, and meanwhile the aliens, which spoilers, they're not creating the kaiju. We're constantly improving them, making them bigger, deadlier, stronger, faster, and more abilities.
More of them.
Yeah, and more of them. And really up in
you can tell, like, clearly, though, they have a class system for the kaijus. Like, they've been doing this for so long, they have a clear ranking system, and everyone's aware of it.
Which, again, it's just crazy that we're seeing this movie, like, at the end, and we're seeing it take place in a point where this is all normal for people, as opposed to, like, I feel like anybody else would have made this movie where, like, that attack on San Francisco would have been the movie.
Yeah, like the prequel where you get to see, like, us actually making Jaegers and stuff.
Exactly.
That would be cool. I would be down for that.
Mr. Idris Elba right here. Stacker Pentecost. Holding it down, as Yos does. And I should point out, too, that this film is directed and co-written by Guillermo del Toro, who is one of my favorite directors of all time, and quite possibly my favorite director.
I honestly couldn't tell you what else he does besides this movie.
You're terrible, and we can't be friends.
I'd like you to leave. He did the first two Hellboy movies. I say the first two because at the time of this recording, there is a reboot coming out. Pan's Labyrinth, Shape of Water.
I like all those movies.
Yeah.
Not Shape of Water, I haven't seen it, but Pan's Labyrinth and the two Hellboys I've seen.
Yeah, Mimic, Devil's Backbone, Chrono. Yeah, he's
Pan's Labyrinth, is that the super fucked up movie? Or am I thinking of something else?
Well,
it is pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it probably is.
Okay.
He also works on that Troll Hunter Netflix series.
Yeah, and he's going to be doing some more stuff for Netflix soon, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's got a very distinctive style, and he loves monsters. He even said that, he won't show up to set, there's not a monster in the script. And he grew up watching kaiju movies, too. Like, when he goes to Japan to do press, he can start naming off every single kaiju. He gives me a run for my money when it comes to, like, his kaiju knowledge.
That's good. I like to think that there's other people who are as knowledgeable as you. Jesus.
It's funny, because I haven't watched it since we've seen the second one, so now I'm kind of like...
Again, I really enjoy the second one. I know some people have their issues with it, but I do prefer this one. And again, I think a lot of just my preference with Del Toro's style. I mean... Yeah.
I like this one way more than the second one.
I mean, we'll talk about more about when we get to Pacific Rim Uprising. And I like The Night, but just stylistically, I like Del Toro's style more. And I know there were a bit more restrictions on The Night for the second one, and I think it's Del Toro being a bigger name in Hollywood.
I still can't get behind that they're all just kids in, like, the second one. Like, no, you're not going to get in that kaiju for the first time and do all that shit.
Well, I mean, desperate times. Love that.
These people have been, like, training for years and stuff, and I don't know. They've had multiple fights in this kaiju.
To be fair, they had newer, fancier Jaegers, too, that I'm sure picked up this slot.
Probably, they probably autopiloted half of it.
I mean, Gypsy Day, I mean, you think about these Jaegers here have probably been in active service for a long time. But again, because they haven't come across any kaiju that could really stand against them, there's been no need. The programs, they're not going to want to spend money where they think they don't have to. I mean, that's government spending 101.
Those things might be expensive.
Well, yeah. So again, if they're like, okay, well, this Jaeger is like, 8 years old. Should we get new ones? Well, has it lost? No. Screw it. Keep it going. Again, if they were still going against kaiju that were on par with them, I think we would have seen Jaegers beyond Gypsy Danger by this point. I mean, you'll see like Strike Eureka, and they even say in this film she's the most advanced Jaeger ever built. She's all digital. I think we would have been more to that point by now had there been really a need for it. But because we were winning, they're like, screw it. No sense spending money where we don't have
to. It's time to make money now.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll,
let's start filming them.
And
paint them all pretty.
I would love to see
action figures.
Yeah, or like a show or like an anime, or like around that era before everything went to shit, where kind of the publicity around Jaegers, this program, because these guys became rock stars basically.
Dude, I'll take anything with more Jaegers in it. An anime with that would be awesome.
Well, originally there was going to be an anime prequel, but then when things happened and things changed with the sequel, it went by the wayside. But, you know, it could still happen. I know Guillermo del Toro is still an executive producer on it, so... And he just won another Oscar, so he's got some clout. Here we have Knifehead.
Was that for Shape of Water?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's such a good movie.
Does that movie have a monster in it?
It's got a gill man. And I love how they have the glow in their mouth. I love that their blood is like neon blue. And apparently a lot of these kaiju are loosely based off of existing kaiju. Knifehead reminds me of, I forget his name, but he's a kaiju from one of the Gamera movies.
Oh, yeah.
When Gamera goes to that like planet and he fights that one thing that basically his entire head is a knife.
Hence the name.
Yeah. And I like, by the way, too, like, there's a lot of practical, because Guillermo's a big fan of practical effects. And the interior of the cockpit, like, I mean, it's mostly real to a point. I mean, like, all this right here, that's all real.
Not CGI,
main
you mean?
parts of the rig.
Yeah, once it extends further down all the way, it becomes a digital shot. But all this stuff here, minus, you know, the display...
Actually, that's a real Jaeger. That's a kaiju.
Yeah.
This is all real.
Guillermo likes his practical effects.
There's a locker somewhere that's filled with kaijus and Jaegers.
Oh my god, I don't know what job that is, but I'll be the janitor for that locker.
I feel like you'd be the person that would make kaijus, and then you'd make the kaiju defense committee also. Like,
I would.
You'd be on both sides.
I would. In a heartbeat. And I love, too, how... and one of the things that Guillermo even said he wanted to do with this film was he didn't want the robots and the kaiju to be... because they're CGI, he didn't want them to look like they could do back... He wanted them to look heavy. Because one of the, you know, things that, you know, with tokusatsu effects, they always made them look like... They made them look heavy. They make them look big. And part of that is because it's a real actor in a, like, 150-pound suit.
It's hard to look graceful.
Yeah.
Like that.
And he wanted to kind of capture that feel. So he made a joke saying, when you watch these things move, it's like, you know, when I step out of the tub, I come out with a heavy thud because I'm big. Now, and that's just me. That's what he said. Because Guillermo's a bigger guy. And he said, now these things are like massive. So when they move and step, like when they move in water, they are shifting. Shifting like massive amounts of like water, so they need to look as big as they are, as heavy as they are. Oh.
Ooh.
So yeah, up to this point, they're saying too, this is the largest kaiju on record. And you can even see, too, that it's bigger than Gypsy. And I think at this point, they were roughly... I think the kaijus were kind of built to be around the same size as them. This thing is bigger, like a lot.
And they seem like they don't know how to handle being hit.
They honestly probably have never been in a position where this has happened to them.
Yeah, like the hole has been opened.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. By the time these guys joined the program... They probably, the Jaeger program had been so, fine-tuned.
It's more of like finding a job, I figure.
Yeah, like they have the training, they have to go
the right
through
person.
But at this point, it's not about you're putting your life at risk, it's about you're just doing the job.
Yeah.
It's like when people go like big game hunting in Africa, and they go and shoot lions, but these lions are just raised and captivated, and then they just drop them off a truck, half tranquilized on a field, and a guy gets driven up to it, puts like basically a sniper rifle on and just snipes out the lion. And it's like, oh, I killed a lion. It's like, no, you basically just assassinated a domesticated cat. And I kind of feel like up to this point, that's what the Jaeger program was like. The kaiju were not big enough. They were not strong enough. They would basically just go there, take them out, and be done with it, and go home and have a beer. So for these guys, they probably never really had a fight. They just dispatched
beat the shit out of something.
Yeah. And that's assuming they even got a lot of action where they were, too. They probably were just there, like, you know, on standby.
I am disappointed.
He's like, oh, God, I'm going to hear about this, aren't I? But it's funny, the way Guillermo's like films look, they all look like live action graphic novels. His way, use of color and like set pieces.
There's just a lot of attention to detail.
Yeah, and he's a big fan. That's the thing. Guillermo's a huge anime fan. He reads comic books. Like he plays video games. Like he's a huge nerd. They should have done something like a Gundam there or something. I kind of feel like
no one would care about Gundams in this world. There's Jaegers.
I always find this funny because I'm like, how would you not have heard it way sooner?
They got headphones on. They're scrying the beach for. There's a very stealthy Jaeger, rolled very high.
It's funny, you look at some of the deleted scenes, there's an unfinished version of this sequence here where the digital model Jaeger isn't completely finalized, but when he walks up, he's actually holding, or Gypsy's holding the ship she saved in her hand.
Still.
And she drops it on the beach, and before she goes down, to kind of show like he completed the mission. Because again, they were supposed to intercept the Jaeger and not save the boat.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to save this. Like, you have to save the city. You have to sacrifice the boat to show that they...
I don't know why they didn't just do that, but...
It's just a shot. It's more complicated. And, the more... And probably they were on a deadline. They were like, okay, well...
I feel like, though, like, looking at him, he wouldn't be able to bring the boat back. Just in the state he's in, the state his ship's in.
And that might ultimately be the reason why. I mean, it's a cool shot, but I kind of feel like he just moved them away and they, rolled away or whatever boats do.
Yeah, him going for the boat is like everything we've been talking about, how they're not ready for a kaiju like this, and they're getting
Yeah, and again, it sets up his character as being noble, but on the flip side, it's like, you guys have a greater responsibility. It sucks, yes, but I'm kind of like, well, at the same time, though, if you live on the Pacific Rim, and you go have a job that takes you on the water, you're in a world where giant monsters come out of the Pacific Ocean.
You probably signed some kind of...
waiver.
Yeah.
Like... If you want to be a fisherman on the Pacific Ocean,
you can't sue us if a kaiju eats your husband.
Yeah, there's some paperwork involved with that job. and again, it sucks, but you have to kind of put because what if the kaiju did end up going to Anchorage and like thousands of people would have died as opposed to just that one ship? I mean, it sucks, but these are the kind of positions I feel like as a soldier, essentially Rangers is what they're called, you would have to kind of be put in. But again, they probably never had to deal with that because they signed up during the glory days.
Yeah, and Jaeger pilots are kind of hard to come by. You need two people with who can compatibly link together and stuff.
You need a goose and a maverick.
Yeah,
that's right, folks.
So they feel like they can get away with shit.
We've all been here, right? When you have to talk to your supervisors and your managers here, and you're just trying to explain to them what it's like doing the job.
Like, shit hit the fan. I mean, I tried,
and they just don't get it. Sitting up front in their office, in front of a fucking computer, making a schedule. I'm not bitter. Look at him. He's just like, ugh.
I mean, if you had 9 surly white men looking at you like that, I probably wouldn't be happy. Okay, I guess there is 9 of them.
So I like they're saying this is the end of basically this is it. Although I always thought it would be kind of interesting too to see if maybe they try to privatize the Jaeger program, get these billion-dollar investors, because there's a lot of people who think the walls are a dumb idea. It's just the politicians want to do that. But if you're like a Elon Musk person, you're like, yeah, no, that's a dumb idea, and I'm a billionaire, so here's what we're going to do.
We're going to make kaiju. Wait, no.
No, Jaegers.
Yeah. That should be his next project. You should let him know.
And here's the thing, too. I don't care how fast you're building that wall. If more kaiju shit attacked right now,
I mean, do you really think you're going to build a wall that's going to keep one of those things out?
Well, and that's kind of going to be the irony is what you're going to see is that it doesn't work, obviously. I mean, if they're developing kaiju that can, destroy these war machines, I don't think a wall is going to keep them out.
And best defense is a good offense.
And here's my thing, and you'll see it later on, too, but what makes them think they wouldn't develop kaiju that can fly?
Well, they come from the ocean.
Yeah, but again, that's the thing. They develop them to kind of handle whatever threat that comes. That's why now they're getting bigger and stronger so they can fight Jaegers. Before they were just having to crash through cities. Now they have to actually fight something off. So
they're so heavy, like it'd be hard to make one fly.
Well, one does in this movie. But I'm just saying, it's like technically kaiju shouldn't even exist at all, due to like physics. So the fact that in this world kaiju are existing, like, well, if they can exist and shit, they can probably fucking fly too.
Yeah,
so
that's only challenge rating 5 though.
Yes.
Jesus.
I can't remember the terms for this movie, right?
It's one thing if they wanted to. At this point, honestly, I would even just say build like underground cities or bunkers. That would make more sense to me than a wall.
Or like the Evangelion city where fucking when the angels show up, the city buildings drop underneath.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, there you go. There's your fucking wall.
Now what are you gonna do?
It just walk through it like Ooh, that was a good shot.
I like how they were just standing there.
Oh, not any more than that.
Oof.
And again, this is the newest Jaeger. And already you can see how much faster and more agile it is. Which is probably why it succeeded in taking this one down, even in the first place.
That's a pretty big one.
Yeah, well, I think they said this was the biggest one on record. So there you go. They're producing kaiju that can go through your wall. So literally, it's you should literally just keep building, do what the aliens are doing, keep building bigger and badder Jaegers. I would even say try to build giant Jaegers where it takes like 4 or 5, 6 people to pilot. If you can get that many people, just to do a big beastly Jaeger.
Because I think they have like physics limits and stuff. Like. Technically, they take 4 Jaegers and they Power Rangers them and they like form one bigger Jaeger.
Voltron stuff. Yeah, I'd be down with that. Speaking of which, where the hell's my Voltron movie?
Aren't they working on it?
They've been working on that movie for like 15 years, but I remember Guillermo saying here that he designed this to look like a broken throne. Like the character here is like sitting on, so like he used to be like a king top of his game, and now he's fallen. So like he's kind of under, he's like on a broken throne, basically. Like he's no longer this hotshot pilot. He's not on top of the world anymore.
I feel like he wasn't. Like, was he a hotshot pilot though?
I kind of feel
he thought he was. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's clear he thought he was.
Well, it's kind of like his ego. Like it's like a ruined throne. It's like, he once thought himself as this grand figure. This valiant knight, this warrior. And now he's he's still sitting on his throne, but his throne is like dilapidated, basically.
Yeah, that's gotta be fucked up.
Yeah.
I feel like it's gotta be fucked up just to be connected to your brother in general, or anyone.
I love Idris Elba. I want Idris Elba just to talk at me all the time.
I feel so inspired.
I know.
Yeah, I do want to do that.
And I love that they didn't try to replicate that in the sequel. I like their respect. I love that even like John Boyega, who played his son, was even like, more than once he even said too, "I'm not my father."
No one can be that guy. Like, you can't live up to him.
Exactly. He'd even say, right now, my dad would give you this great speech that would make you feel like, $1 million unstoppable. It's like, I can't do that. Here's the deal. We got to get to work, Let's just do this shit.
And then they all masterfully pilot their Jaegers.
Well, those were cadets for a while, though.
Except for the girl.
Well, she did build one.
It's true.
My favorite character.
I like to believe that a lot of these people have had years in their Jaeger, and they know they have like a special connection to it and stuff. They're not just like a teenager thrown in one.
Well, a few of them did die, and most of those Jaegers did get fucked up.
Yeah,
completely destroyed. So they didn't really succeed.
Yeah.
They had to basically kamikaze a Jaeger into the kaiju just to destroy it, essentially.
Big kaiju, all right?
Yeah. Makomori, played by Rin Kikuchi. She's my favorite character in this whole movie. I love the little blue in her hair. apparently the little girl that supposed to play her when she's like in the flashback when she's younger, she couldn't say Guillermo del Toro's name, so he let her just call her Totoro on set.
Aww, that's a good nickname.
I know.
And enters my favorite character.
I know. I love these guys.
Both of them together are perfect.
Oh, I know.
Together.
And that's supposed to be a joke from Aliens, where the girl Rebecca Newt, she even says, "Call me Newt."
Every time I see that guy, I see the Jew Hunter, but that's not him. I don't know why. And you don't know what I'm talking about. I
No.
This now. Yeah.
I just remember him from. I was first introduced to him in Torchwood.
Oh yeah, he's in Washington Spies. I don't know how I started watching that show.
They cut this scene right here too. There's an extended version of this where after he says that, he comes out and goes, "Oh, excuse me, no, you don't tell me that. You guys just want to destroy, want to respect him." And then Riley gets in his face like, "Listen, you guys think they're cool and fun because you see them on TV like everybody else. Wait till you get in the face of one of these things, and they like try to kill you. You'll have a different perspective on it."
Again,
But no, really, I think
would've
he
been
does
very
like love kaiju that much that he does like want to be inside one.
Well, again, he's a scientist. He said too. He goes, "I understand they're well, it's like people who study tornadoes. Really,
chase them.
Yeah, they don't want a tornado to drop on the city just to see one, but because they exist."
No, but deep down they do. I feel like they do.
Again, they're fascinated by like the power they have. It's like, but God, I want to see that movie.
I love the clock.
I know, I love that
the
clock
again. It just makes everything so much more over the top.
It creates tension.
Yeah.
And again, you can definitely see the difference in this film and the second one, where the second film, fully funded Jaeger program, everything is sleek, shiny. Mm-hmm. This one, it's like, you can tell they are literally like,
they're just getting help from the Russians. They're, this is some underground shit.
Yeah. Well, it's even great, too, because I don't know if he said the line already, or that he says, we're not an army anymore, we're the resistance, we're... I forget which Gundam this is supposed to be based off, but this is loosely based off one of the old school Gundams, one of the first generation ones.
The helmet,
the color too.
I love how like they're building up all these characters though, but you don't really get to see.
Yeah, well, again, that's why I would love to have seen that anime where it focused on. Basically,
you could focus on any of these, like the way they talk about the Jaeger. You could make a story out of it.
Oh yeah, well, again, there's a comic book that kind of talks about that era too, where it was Stacker when he was getting started off as a pilot, when they were the first generation of Jaeger pilots. And think about what that would be like. Not only are you a young pilot, but you're a young pilot doing something for the first time.
Yeah, learning how to pilot this thing while you're fighting them.
Hercules.
I love it. Yeah, so Mach 5. So this was, again, like probably the last one they were really developing. But again, I kind of feel like we would have been here much sooner had, everybody kind of kept their eye on the ball a little bit more. Again, I think...
Well, they don't know that, the kaiju problem is, accelerating.
Yeah, but again, I think it's one of those things where they... it's easy to say, I guess hindsight's 20/20. But again, like the fact that you could tell... I think like they were getting comfortable.
Just now they're getting the bigger ones.
Yeah.
For the longest time, they probably could have thought, hey, why do anything?
Yeah, again, well, that's the thing. It's one thing to match them. I would have still said, go up one step more so you're completely dominating them. That way...
Then it's not as fun to watch.
I guess, but again, that's I think it's become an industry. I think it's become a business, and I think that overshadowed the initial purpose of the Jaeger program, which is defense. But once they were defending us, like, easily without risk. I think it became more about the commercialization of it because it's like they're sure they had toys, merchandise, everything.
Oh, I'd love to just think that this is a real room that they all put together.
Again, Guillermo loves building these big
chalkboard, made paper mache models of alien guts, figured out how to get the right color slime and consistency.
Yep, well, that's what Guillermo. You should watch the making of all his movies. He goes into so much detail. And he, and especially his comment, he's one of the few directors who still does commentaries, and he goes into everything.
Ew.
They're just like an old married couple.
I know.
Yeah, anyone else be like, you're not gonna throw kaiju guts all over the place. That's not allowed here. But he's used to it by now.
Just in the back, he's just like.
Mm-hmm.
I want that setup.
I know, right?
I feel like we're not that far from this.
We probably could get that now,
Yeah.
just whether it's cost
He would have
effective.
fancy gloves on, though. He wouldn't be doing that barehanded.
Well, if it's just light.
I mean, maybe in the future you replace your fingertip bones with magnetic,
Or have microchips embedded in your
dongles.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of dongles in your fingers.
I love these two.
And it's fun. There's some people who didn't like this. Some people thought this was the stuff that seemed just too silly and ridiculous. And I'm like, if you come from anime and that kind of world, you always have kind of care. And that's what I like about this movie. It kind of feels like a Showa era kaiju film where it's very big and over the top because it's a great example of because Godzilla that came out a year later was very rooted in the real world. It was very realistic. This is what it would look like if this kind of shit actually happened. Whereas this is the more fantastical. Okay, let's say it happened, but let's say it happens the way we wish it could happen. Giant robot.
Yeah, realistically,
we're not going to build giant
straight-laced scientists.
Yeah, these guys would be the most boring, awkward guys in the world. We would be building giant robots.
They wouldn't even be in the movie.
No, they wouldn't.
You just hear from them.
They would send in a memo. And again, both movies are great, but it shows you kind of the kind of the range of the genre of film. It's funny too because a lot of hardcore kaiju fans like this movie more than Godzilla, but this film didn't do as good as Godzilla. It struggled at the box office, but the average film goer, the non kaiju fan, actually liked Godzilla more, and I think Godzilla served as more as a good introduction because it was more grounded. Because you're asking people to believe something pretty ridiculous when you say, okay, picture this, right? Giant monsters. That in and of itself is kind of a hard pill to swallow. So I think because that film was grounded in reality more, it made people more
relatable.
It was a good gateway drug. Whereas people who are already into this kind of stuff
would love this movie more.
Yeah, we could just jump right in, especially too because it has a big anime aesthetic. This is this is just going to school for me. But I think then later on, people discovered this movie after the fact. Once they kind of,
I just love over the top movies. This one hit perfectly. There's some scenes that go a little too far, but
it's almost like you'd rather have them go too far than not far enough. If you had to pick one or the other, even though from what I'm hearing,
the world's about to explode. Kaiju's coming out of its butt.
Yep. You know what I'm hearing from Godzilla, King of the Monsters. That movie might be leaning a bit more in this direction, which I have no problem with.
But all these characters create an awesome atmosphere here that is happy, not just sad, gloomy.
Oh yeah, no, everyone in Godzilla is just dark and fucking depressed. I was like, Jesus.
And all these people are happy to be. They kind of seem like they're happy to be here.
Yeah, well, they live for this shit.
Yeah.
But again, in Godzilla, this is our introduction. This is the world discovering that giant monsters exist. In this film, this is people have known about them for over a generation. They've accepted it. It's a part of their life now. So they've kind of learned to live a normal life.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I can sympathize with his fucking cockiness. If I fucking took down a kaiju, I'd probably have that smile on my face all the time.
I mean, if there was anything that could make you that cocky, like, yeah, I punched a giant monster in a giant robot. What have you done today?
I think that would feel pretty good.
Like, if that's how you make your money, if that's how you pay the rent. It's like, yeah, well, how was work today? Well, I body slammed another giant monster in my giant robot. So, another day at the office. But again, it really wasn't him losing the fight. It was him losing his brother. I think that's the interesting thing is that he now has a personal
the
stake.
Same thing.
Well, yeah, but for him, it's like, okay, I mean, these things have been killing people all over the world, but for him, it never touched him, like, personally. It was kind of like the tragedy was more like in broad strokes. So he's like, but, in the meantime...
I don't know about that. Having your brother die while your brain's connected to him is probably pretty personal for him.
But I mean, like, before that.
Oh.
Before that happened, it's like, okay, I fight giant monsters. That's my job. Again, it's kind of like if you watch Top Gun, like...
Oh, she's just, like, creeping.
Check out those abs. Love it.
To be fair...
I mean, he does have his door open.
I was like, yeah, I don't know why he went to shut his door.
For that reason alone,
yeah,
right
for that
there.
reason, right there.
He's like, he planted the seed. Mm-hmm. He's playing the long game. But yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those things where, again, it's like when you watch Top Gun, like Maverick is super cocky, and then Goose dies, his wingman, and it's like, oh shit! Suddenly, then he's doubting himself, he's questioning everything, he doesn't know if he can do it anymore because it touched him personally. If there was an equipment malfunction or something like that, it's like, oh, okay, it's not really my fault. But when you lose someone that close to you.
Yeah, why wouldn't they have the same deal with the main character? Like, vengeance clouds your mind. Well, I guess he's the only one who's...
Well, that's the way him, Riley?
Yeah.
Well, because that's the irony. He's not... And that's actually a really interesting thing about his character. It's like, he's not looking for vengeance. He's doing the exact opposite. He's basically saying, I wasn't good enough to keep... I wasn't a good enough soldier to keep from happening what happened. Therefore, I should not be doing this. Somebody else better than me. So I kind of think that's an interesting trait from because usually in situations like that, like I want to get back in the fight, I want to make it personal. And him, he's like, no,
huge personal vendetta, and he's not doing that. Yeah,
he's like
kind of refreshing.
And again, I know some people didn't like his character, or they thought he wasn't very interesting, and I don't know. I like him. I think he's charismatic and free. And again, like you said, he's refreshing. He's not just this angsty, like, I fucking hate the kaiju. Oh god, I want my revenge. He's very realistic. He's like, you know what? I did my job and I wasn't good enough.
It seems like a lot of people would have, like, normally you would think he would be the main character. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Or the story would have been in those two brothers as hotshots, and then halfway through the movie, one of them died. Again, Top Gun style. And the second half is about him, regaining his courage. And I kind of like how he's just saying, like, no, you're here because we're fucking desperate. We've got nobody else. Like...
I mean, they do kind of pair off as he's, like, the suicide guy, too, isn't he? Like, Gypsy Danger goes in, like, first or something. Oh, wait, no, that's the other...
Yeah. Well, they basically were going on a suicide run at the end.
The whole thing's kind of a suicide mission.
Well, yeah. Well, at this point, they're all, like, desperate. They're even saying, like, we've got nothing to lose anymore. Because think about it. If they don't pull this off, they've already seen the walls don't work. So, essentially, if they don't pull this mission off, the world is lost. And they're kind of showing that, our elected officials, our leaders, are just basically cowards who want to hide behind walls and not, they're basically not, they're allowing...
Yeah, they're doing something. It's not the right thing.
Yeah, their fear is clouding their judgment. They're just scared, and basically by following them, we're all going to die. And these are the only people who are actually willing to go out there and do something about it. Again, that's why, like they say, too, we're not a military anymore. We're not officially back. We're the resistance. We're the people who are just standing up and doing it because we want to.
I like this scene.
I know, she's so adorable.
She's picking it all apart.
Look at her face there.
I know.
See, I feel like you'd be reserved about the main character having problems, losing his brother in the drift like he does with Mako, but...
Well, again, I think it's... He even said, too, you weren't my first choice, you were my only choice because you're the one left. I don't think he would have willingly have gone for his character, if...
What's his name?
Huh?
What's the main character's name, goddammit?
Rowley Beckett.
Rowley, yeah, okay.
Kind of a curious name.
Rowley.
Like the other guy, that's how he says his name.
I know.
Rowley! It's like, why do you say it that way?
That's how it's pronounced, man.
Rowley! It's like he's having a stroke when he says it.
Jesus.
Well, he does.
It's true.
He says it to kind of be mean about it, but it just sounds weird.
So awkward.
This is the hottest first date ever. Tell me to concentrate.
I don't understand this. Like, why are they doing this?
Well, I think they're, like, seeing the rhythm between two people. It's kind of like a dance, basically.
No, I'm just like, why are they letting each other get points? All right, just fight each other. Just kick his ass.
He needs to take his shirt back off, so she'll be like, what?
He, like, lifts up his shirt just a little bit to show off the abs. She gets all starry-eyed,
He, like,
cracks her
pulls
head.
it to the side, though, so just his nip shows.
He does that thing that girls do where they tie it up in their midsection so they show their belly. So his abs are just out, and she's just, like, constantly, like, in a daze.
Oh, my God.
If this is an anime, that's how this would go.
I want to believe it wouldn't go that way.
She'd be getting the nosebleed. God, I really hope they do it. They still do an anime one day with his character and have Idris Elba do the voice. Look at that smug asshole.
Shit-eating.
He's like,
Yeah, they do a great job of making me hate that guy.
I know.
Well, a lot of people say, yeah, I hated his character. He was such a fucking asshole. I'm like, no, that means the actor did a great job. That's the whole point. You're not supposed to like this guy. The guy's an actor. His job is to embody and portray another person. And the script called for... Oh, I love this bit right here. I just love how awkward and adorable she is. But she's badass, but you put her like a social situation, and you can see she's got like no like background in it.
Her whole life's just fighting, it seems like.
Yeah.
That's all she cares about.
But I like how she's not mean or like cold, like, all I know is war. She's not that. None of these characters are kind of played to cliche, which I like. He's not vengeance driven. She's not either. But she's not like this, I've been raised to be a killer. I'm an assassin. I'm a living weapon. She's not that character. You know what I mean? She's very vulnerable.
Just like this man. Oh no, what's wrong with you?
That's the one thing I always thought is funny. No one ever wipes their nose that way when they think their nose is bleeding. They always do this, and then it'll smear it all on your hand.
Well, yeah, it would be very classy then.
Wow. I know Idris Elba's a classy motherfucker,
Yeah,
so I guess he's just better than everyone else.
Yeah, he is. That's
Yeah.
how Idris Elba
I know.
wipes his nosebleeds. He doesn't like smear it all over his face like a punk bitch. No, he's like a little bit on the fingernail. What's that? Take a pill. Deal with that shit later. Classy.
What would you do? Never mind.
I wish I could live my life as classy as Idris Elba wipes his nose.
What if he
I don't
took
think
out
that's
a
possible.
tampon and put it in his nostril?
What?
Would he still be classy?
No! That's why he doesn't do that.
Why would you do that?
Have you never seen somebody do... I've never
No!
seen it in person, but I've seen people make jokes about doing it online.
I don't associate
think
with
that's-
those kinds of people. You know when like people stick tampons up their nose, right, Alex? You've seen
really
that, right?
bad nosebleed.
I do it every day.
Yeah, get a freaking tissue.
Have you ever heard people doing it with bullet wounds?
Well,
I mean, I've heard of it. But
I've heard of it.
I don't think it actually. I think that's just internet stories.
I've never been shot before, so I don't know. Maybe one day if I take one, I'll be like, hey, who's got a tampon?
I always keep one in my butt just in case.
Just in case he gets shot.
Yeah.
It's so funny, having seen the sequel now,
I know.
this right here, it's almost sad. Because this is like Pandora's box.
But I love it.
Oh, I do too. It was a great character moment.
What was her name? Kelly? Nancy? I can't remember. You gotta come meet Kelly, and he's
Alice.
Alice.
Oh, Alice,
know.
yeah.
Alice.
But yeah, this is what did it. This is what opened it up. Like right here, it's like his life is.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like as a scientist, you would kind of assume that you would know this link goes two ways. Think about it.
Yeah, but at the same time, desperate times call. Again, all these people are desperate. This is all like. That's the thing. If they had all the funding they needed, they could have hooked up the kaiju brain to like some kind of supercomputer that could have done algorithms and tested out the connection and could have blocked.
Yeah,
they
don't have the money for that kind
exactly.
of
So
they have these two weirdos who are doing it for free because they're fucking weird.
Yeah, exactly. So he's just like, fuck it. You know what? I'm gonna just strap this thing to my head and see what happens. Like, what do we got to? Again, what do they have to lose? If they all fail, they're all doomed anyway. I remember Del Toro saying that the color red is symbolic of Mako in this film. Every time you see her dealing with something from her past, the color red comes up. Mm. I would have loved to have been on those sets.
I know.
Just to be in a room like this with all this kind of sci-fi tech stuff.
And it all looks like it's like real working and everything. I think it'd be awesome to like make these sets.
Oh, I know. He did all these up in Canada. I know that's where Guillermo likes. He loves working in Canada now. That he actually has a house up there. He always likes working with Canadian crews. So all his movies are shot up in Canada now.
The idea of just making all these things look like they work instead of like making actual functional things sounds awesome.
Oh yeah, well that's a great thing about like what he's very tactile. He likes his worlds to have a lot of physicality and to look like it's it's literal, like it's lived in too. So all the machines have to look like they're functional. Like this has to look like okay, this could work. He doesn't design stuff just for it looks neat. Because they could have easily made all this look really sleek and slick and super polished and just said, oh, it's future tech, so it doesn't need to look functional. It's so advanced that it doesn't look functional.
Gypsy Danger kind of looks like a rusty piece of shit.
Well, she essentially is at this point. Most of these Jaegers are. And she's one of the newer Jaegers,
she's
too.
She's got scratch marks everywhere.
Yeah. And she's not even... Yeah, after Strike Eureka, she's the... most newest one, and she already looks old and run down. So you have some of the other ones that are even older than her. And again, the fact that they're still running them because they've never built more, or most of the other ones are all destroyed. The guy spins around like, the fuck? But see, again, now that I've seen the sequel, I'm wondering how soon did it set in? Were they already... I mean, I don't think they were controlling him yet, obviously, because of what he does in this movie.
I don't think they were ever really controlling him.
Well, I don't think they were controlling... I almost kind of figured, like, he was infected by their instincts. So their will became his will. So he wasn't doing it because they were communicating with him. He was doing it because he wanted to. For the same reason they wanted to.
Spoilers for the second one.
Oh, well, yeah, by the way, yeah.
I feel like everyone who's watching this, they've seen this movie and the second one.
I hope so.
Hopefully they weren't going to listen to us the first time they watched them.
Oh, I've always said with these commentaries, if you haven't seen these movies yet, watch the movie first.
You're going to tell them this like an hour into the movie.
I mean, we
By the way, there's an important message you need to hear at an hour in. There's spoilers.
I mean, I've said a few some of the older commentators, but I would assume that before you watch a movie with a commentary track, whether it be an amateur one like ours or an official one, you watch the movie first. I like to think that goes without saying, but if that's not how you do things, do it that way, and then watch the movie with our witty banter.
You need to put that PSA in the beginning.
I really should, apparently.
No, I feel like it's without saying for a lot of these.
I love how he can see he's processing this. He's very stoic, but you can see in his eyes where his mind is literally being blown. Like, he's stoic, rigid, but on the inside, he's screaming bloody murder right now. He's like, fuck!
I don't believe he is.
Son of a bitch!
I believe he's calm on the inside, too. Look at that man.
I feel he looks like him on the inside.
No,
Just
dude.
picture that inside his head.
He looks like him on the inside, too.
I love that.
He looks like himself on the inside, too. All right.
I feel like if they made this movie now, the Russian chick would have been Gwendolyn Christie.
Yeah.
Because she's giant and amazing. Maybe this franchise would have treated her better than Star Wars did.
Stick her in a bucket for most of it and like give her nothing to do.
Yeah.
Again, I love.
Then again,
I love Phasma. I just wish Phasma had more to do.
If she played that character, she would have died anyway. So.
And by the way, I love that there's a kaiju black market. I love that. But then again,
there would be.
Oh yeah, but again, that just goes to show you that this is a lived-in world.
Calibration complete.
Calibrate the shit out of that Jaeger.
I know, right?
Oh.
And I love that they got the freaking, GLaDOS voice.
I know. Again, I like how it shows too, like how you slip out of alignment for like a split second. It's like
you're lost in a dream.
Yeah, like how and why it's so difficult
I love how
to.
they do this still. Kind of transition.
Oh yeah, how she's just shroom tripping right now. It's just snowing.
I'm trying to figure out how they did. Okay, there they cut away. I'm pretty sure that she was on set, and they just dimmed the light behind her. And I think then at the falling ash or snow was probably a digital shot, but 90% of how he probably achieved that was just lighting.
Well, a second ago, you saw the reflection of the cityscape in her mask, which I've never, or like the visor.
Yeah.
Which I never noticed before it actually cut to this.
Because details.
Again, he does the cut later than I think most directors would have done. But again, yeah, he loves doing and this kaiju, I'm pretty sure is supposed to be like an homage to Ebera.
He's a crab, man.
Which Ebera was.
I don't know what Ebera. It's a crab.
Wasn't he a lobster?
Well, he was like a big crustacean thing.
Lobster.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like this
looks delicious.
This makes me think of like a modern version of Ebera.
God, I hate anything that has more than 4 legs.
Oh, the other thing too is that all the kaiju he said in this movie, even though they were CGI, they all had to look like a human being could fit inside of them. Like in terms of like a suit.
Yeah.
They'd be really elaborate suits, but they had to look like in theory, you could put a person inside that and have them controlling it. And you wanted that as an homage to like, tokusatsu effects where, because again, with CGI, they can take up any body posture they want now. But
that's a crab.
But yeah, but if you look at like the designs of these things, they stand more upright. So a suit, what they used to do for suits like this, they would have the main limbs being controlled. By like the actors, and they would have all these extra ones hanging off.
The angles that it's like you're only seeing it in an angle where it looks like it's kind of just the front two legs. But
well, remember Legion in the second Gamera movie where it was like had all these limbs and legs, but they hid the fact that it was only 2 of the limbs were actually being controlled by the actor.
Oh, they hid it so well.
They did, and that was a practical suit. So the fact that they don't have to do that anymore, and the fact that he's still doing that with CGI, so these creatures still feel like kind of the kaiju we've known. You know what I mean? They don't look completely different.
Oh, God.
And he based a lot of these, not directly off, but the approach to the kaiju designs, he based a lot of like Ultraman kaiju, which they used to play around with the suits as much as possible. With Ultraman kaiju, they would try to hide the human form as much as possible. And he says, he kind of influenced with these kaiju, where they have to look like a human could fit inside of it if it was a suit, but we're going to try to just make it as elaborate of a quote-unquote suit as we can make it. while still having a human being inside.
I love how he just like switched to Chinese to talk to everyone.
Yeah.
It just feels really Firefly to me.
I know, right? I also kind of feel that too, like a lot of people in this world now would be bilingual, just because now there's probably so much cooperation between governments and countries that, like, there's not much separation anymore, too. And let's be real, China would probably be building a lot of these things. So you better learn
There'd be that, they'd have that plate that says made in China somewhere.
Yeah. There'd be a lot of people going to be speaking Mandarin and Cantonese in this world. God, that would be so scary, though, to be, like, locked in your memory like that.
I think it'd be more scary to see the kaiju raising its lightning arm at your, little tiny, whatever, control system.
Jaeger. Well, I just mean
Jaeger.
I just mean for the person inside of it. Like, imagine being trapped in, like, your worst moment. It'd be like a living hell.
Oh, yeah.
Now, all this stuff here, this is so Guillermo del Toro. This aesthetic, the coloring, the lighting. Like, it feels like an anime right here, like a manga. And he had, again, for time and...
Oh, this looks awesome.
Like the lighting here, that orange light. Yeah. Again, that's the one thing. I mean, I get it. It's a different style, so I respect it. But one of the things I missed from this one is that I didn't get in the second film was that everything was lit very normal, very kind of like traditional. It felt more like a real world.
This feels like a different... A little different.
Yeah, like this to me feels like, okay, if we're in a world where giant monsters,
kaiju spikes.
I know. If we're in a world where there's kaiju have existed for a while, I feel the whole world would have gotten a little weird. By the way, this actor right here is a Mexican actor. He's a good friend. He's one of Guillermo del Toro's best friends, and he crops up a lot in his movies. He played a vampire that got tortured by Blade in the second Blade movie. But you know what I mean. Like I feel like this point, like if something as unreal,
I forgot about Hannibal Chow.
How can you forget
Hannibal Chow? One of my favorite actors of all time, Ron Perlman. Love this man. I was so bummed when he was in the second one.
I know.
They mentioned him by name once, and that was it. Like
doesn't he die?
Have you not seen the mid-credit sequence of this movie?
I don't know.
Okay, well, spoilers. No, he doesn't.
I love how excited he is right now.
And all this stuff is real. None of this stuff is CGI. Like that thing, they built that. The thing is moving around on its own.
They just built like a vibrating little...
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cute. I'd like to think that they just hand out these props to all the people who worked on the movie.
I would fucking steal so much shit.
God.
They always hear about actors who take stuff from the sets. Like, if I had worked on this movie, oh my God, I would have a basement full of stuff. Oh. He's such a badass. And again, the fact that we have kaiju black... Again, it's like I say, you really feel like this is a fleshed out world where this giant monsters have been a part of our lives for so long now that the world has kind of changed around that reality. So I like the fact that the world is a little...
This is a lot about human nature.
Yeah. And so I just like the fact that the world is nutty now. Like the world is a little weird now, and I love that. So the one thing I was kind of bummed about the second film was that everything felt a little bit more normal. Where I love how here everything feels a little unhinged. Everything's a little wackier. Everything's a little weirder because we've grown up to believe
it's a different world.
It really is, because we all know that there's no... Oh, right there. That's when it's on. We've all been there, right? But yeah, we've all grown up knowing that giant monsters can't be real. We know they're not real. We love watching movies, but we know some of this can't be real. Don't look at me that way. But imagine then saying that tomorrow you turn on the news and there's a giant monster on TV. Imagine when everything you thought you knew about life was just thrown in your face as wrong. The world would get weird. The world would get weird around that. And I love the fact that this movie feels like this is a different world now. Ooh. I love like he's getting so angry that he's steaming.
He's fucking raging.
I know, right? I'd like to rage. Look at him. He's just handling too. Like, bam.
Dude, he's getting his ass kicked.
I know, that's not even a fair fight right there. But to think about it too, him and his brother came from nothing. They were scrappy. Whereas this guy is the son of a war hero. So he was
just let in.
Yeah, so he was kind of privileged. Yeah, he went through basic training.
Well, he's like, it wasn't his older brother like a big war guy, and then the Jaeger program started, so he was like, oh, let me bring my brother in. He's kind of the same story.
It's kind of, but these guys even said they were scrappy. They kind of grew up on the street. I love that in the background. That shot with the city and the sunscape. Look at that.
I know.
And this room with 2 pools in it.
Yeah, I don't know why the water's there, but it's cool.
Well,
it's cool shit.
Well, I think a lot of these, again, this was basically a military base, and I feel like a lot of these places are rooms that weren't meant to be rooms, or like, and they've all been converted.
Everything's repurposed.
Yeah. So yeah, this is his office. It's probably like a.
It's got 2 little koi ponds in it, dude.
Yeah.
He's got the penthouse suite up here.
Look at that view, though. Man.
Yeah.
The penthouse for Pentecost.
Oh. Yeah. Again, shots like this. I think that was the thing that was kind of mainly missing from the second film. A great action,
appreciation of like just the world around them. And everything.
Yeah, it felt a little too just. I don't want to say sterile because that's not the right word. It looked very cool, but it looked a little by the numbers. This feels very distinctive. This world feels like this is the world of this movie. It's not any other world. It's this movie.
It's clearly different. Like,
yeah, the second movie, while very cool, feels like.
I mean, there was like a party in the beginning. There's like the rap music playing. They were in a mansion. That was just weird to me.
Which again, I get it. They were setting it up to be different. So I understand, and I like how he's squatting in half a mansion, like he said. Like it's better to sit, be in half a mansion than like a shitty apartment. So I like how you're saying the parts of the world that didn't get rebuilt, and how a lot of people are just like, you know what, fuck the status quo. I'm gonna live. So I like that, but just some of the visual, like again, Guillermo's films look like pieces of art, and he does a lot of his art. He does his own artwork too. He's released a lot of. He keeps these journals where he writes down all his ideas, and he does sketches in them. And he's since printed a few and released them for sale.
God, this looks amazing.
But this stuff is right out of his artwork. When you see he draws all this, so he basically draws like graphic novel shots throughout these books, and then he turns them into scenes, and that's what this feels like. This feels like
he himself like draws the concepts for other people. Yeah. He doesn't get someone else to do it.
That's no, he does himself. He's like James Cameron in that way. Was one of my other favorite directors, and they're actually good friends. But James Cameron like draws is like a very skilled. Look like stuff like that. Shots like that, I feel were missing in the second film.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, I get it. It's a different director. They have different style, and I would not want to see if it's not going to be Guillermo. I don't want to see another director rip him off. But stuff like this is just so like. I mean, look at that. This is like a comic book shot, right? This is like... I mean, that's just the...
It's fucking Master Chief.
I know. Again, and I want to just put out there, I know I am not shitting on the second movie at all.
The second movie is good.
It's a damn good movie. And
I know, it's different. It's a lot. It's very different.
And we've known some people who said they actually liked it better. And I think it's just a matter of preference. But I just know for... right here, look at that. Oh.
What did you do, boy?
That was the look like you were about to get the back of my hand across your face.
Like, do that again and you don't have a hand.
He starts putting some baby powder in his hand, rubbing it together, and just let that shit fly.
I love it.
Apparently this was ad-libbed. I heard maybe this is like, that it was all improv when he does like 1, don't ever touch, 2, don't ever... Like, this is the line where it was supposed to pick up right here. But the whole, like, 1, don't ever touch me, 2, don't... That was Idris saying that.
And it was so good.
Love it.
Yeah, he's so good in this movie.
He doesn't even lay a hand on Rowley, and yet he feels like he just whooped his ass more than Rowley did the other guy in the fist fight. Like, he looks more rough after this talk than the other guy. And right there. Look at that.
Oh.
And just like that,
dude, this man does not need to touch you to destroy your soul.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, I would have rather have taken the beating he gave Homeboy before than that talking to from Stacker Pentecost. I was like, oh my God. Completely emasculates you. Just with a word.
You can see the depression still in his face
Yeah.
right now. Look at it.
And by the way, it's like, here's your balls back. You can go ahead and have those back now that I'm done with them.
I like to think he kept one, though.
Just kept one.
Aww, 2 outcasts.
God, I would eat my lunch there every day.
I know.
Like, why the hell do you want to be in the cafeteria?
I could imagine just going and getting into the Jaeger and eating your lunch so it looks like your Jaeger's eating while you're eating.
Feel all these weird pantomime motions. I just love the idea, too, like, your most personal like, you know, I've always said that the most important things cannot be expressed in words. And I think that's why sometimes there's so many misunderstandings between people, is that words kind of get in the way. And if we could only just feel what the other person's feeling, it would just, in a second, clear up any confusion. You would just get that person. Like, imagine...
It'd just be really awkward, man.
It would, but at the same time, imagine someone just getting you. Like, you'd be afraid that they would see the thing you're most embarrassed about, but on the flip side, they would instantly get it too. They wouldn't judge you for it because they would know why at the same time.
I want a donut.
And yeah, it's definitely awkward, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, just imagine someone getting you as well as if they were you. That would be kind of... Oh, I love this.
This is how babies are made, people.
Yep. This is how it works.
They come from the breach.
It ain't the start. It ain't the start, people.
Yeah.
It's a dimensional rift
Mommy and daddy love each other. There's this rift that opens up in the
in the
Pacific.
Pacific Ocean, and a giant, horrible creature emerges.
That's you.
That's you. I look at a lot of these spoilers. A lot of these guys are gonna die, but I love in the second film you see like that like wall of like heroes
Oh, no.
where it's got like their holograms of their butt, like their heads on the wall, and you see a lot of these guys here.
Yeah, so much build up. If they could just, make a 5-hour movie, I'd be okay. If they turn this like they had some more actual.
A really expensive Netflix series. Hey, Netflix can afford it now.
man.
They can afford it. I don't care. They can afford it. I heard that they're going to spend $100 million to make a movie now because it's going to have Al Pacino and Joe Pesci in it and someone. But it's going to cost $100 million to pay for their salaries. But it's just going to be like a mobster movie. I heard. I'm like, or you could spend that money, get a bunch of really good character actors who aren't going to be that expensive, and make this into a Netflix series.
Yeah.
Like Pacific Rim, the Netflix series. Like, if you're getting spend $100 million on just like Robert De Niro, who was going to be in it. I don't know if it's still happening, but yeah, it was going to be $100 million Netflix movie because of how expensive these guys are. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I'd rather see this.
Netflix could probably eventually do both.
I think they're getting close. As I heard, they haven't turned a profit yet because the way they have their
so
business
much.
model is because they're going to basically turn a profit like around 2020. Like they're playing the long game. So basically, when that check comes in the mail, this would be so true too. I'd love. There would always be people who would like deify them, and
But I just love how there's that corpse in the middle of town, and they just have to like live around it.
because they say they're so
It's too
big that
fucking
when they
big.
fall, like you can't get rid of it. You just have to deal with it. Like it becomes a part of your. But it's kind of like a natural disaster in that sense, where we're
If it was like a one-time thing, they'd be like, evacuate the town.
yeah.
Move everything. I don't know. De-radioactivate. I don't know.
But again, I love how the kaiju now, where they fall, it almost becomes like a slum. Like this is like the slummy area
Yeah.
of town. But the way that people worship them, it's kind of interesting. It's like in the olden days, we used to worship natural disasters because we thought they were extension of gods and deities. So like in the modern world now, people are worshiping kaiju, and kaijus are essentially natural disasters made flesh. But I love this part.
Oh, yeah.
But it's pretty cool. Again, it's classified. They're such a ragtag
I'm
group
gonna
at this
tell
point.
you.
They're like, fuck it, who cares? And I love how, which makes you wonder, like,
I know.
The fact that he recognizes this, like, who was Hannibal Chow before?
I know.
Because he knows a lot about kaiju anatomy.
I mean, he's a black market dealer.
Yeah, but who was he before? I think he might have either done this before or tried to do it before. I think he was like
don't they show that he's got the bloodshot eye too?
Yeah, he's got the eye too.
Yeah, they do show that.
Yeah, I think he was like a scientist because he knows a lot about kaiju because he knows what to pick, what to go for. Like he's look at that. Boom. Yeah, we need some Voltron kaiju now. Form together quick, because that's a big motherfucker right there.
It's so sad that this is like the only time we get to see him in combat.
All these, well, yeah, that was kind of the big complaint for a lot of people. Is like you don't get to see them as a team, and that's one thing the second movie does.
Just take a half an hour, open up one rift before this one, and have them kill the guys. Build some,
If they had enough budget, do like a part 1 and part 2 movie.
Oh God. Again, I think streaming media is when streaming media can start spending hundreds of millions of dollars on series. I think that's when we're going to get like an 8-episode movie kind of thing of like this.
Yeah.
Because you look at something like Stranger Things. Stranger Things basically feels like a really long movie. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like they don't feel like episodes of a TV show. They feel like 2 8-hour movies basically. And because you binge watch it, you basically are watching an 8-hour movie. So I would love to see the 8-hour Pacific Rim.
They're very chronological.
Yeah, exactly. I could totally watch an 8-hour Pacific Rim movie broken up into like 8 parts
1 hour episodes. Hell yeah.
Yeah, or like just even if it was like 6 or something like that would be great because then you could really.
That is a lot of special effects.
Yeah, but you know what? The way the budgets are getting and the way like streaming media, how much money they're making now. I think we're gonna get. I think in the next 10 years, you're gonna start seeing stuff like this. But on the smaller screen. And I cannot wait because I know. And I love when they see the claws come in. I wonder if that's I think it's a practical prop. The big claws coming into the cockpit.
How?
No, I don't mean from the outside. I mean when you saw it from the inside, the big claws come through around them.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying like...
We'll just have them around like, set in like a pulley system.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, they could have been digital, but again, I know Guillermo really likes doing practical shots, so.
Gross.
Yep, and now we're getting kaiju that have projectile abilities, which is kind of like the other thing too. It's kaiju usually have a cool not all of them, but a lot of them have like a cool special attack. And that's something kind of new for the kaiju in this movie, or not in this movie, but like these newer kaiju, they have new offensive features. So I like they have like projectile weapons now. There we go.
Oh God, no!
Leatherback, look at him. Boom.
Oh,
look at those hands too. Oh, bam! Look at that big motherfucker too. Just look, I love it. Just a fucking beatdown.
Yeah, this is the best part of the movie.
And to me, this is what I like. Okay, not to bring this back up, but like you look at movies like Cloverfield, when I'm like, this is how kaiju movies are supposed to be. It's big spectacle. It's big. It's loud. It's in your face. It's just like a big brawl. Like look at that, just crunch. Like. There's nothing secretive or aloof about it. These are kaiju movies at their best when they're just these big spectacles. And I understand some people say,
that was just a different take.
It was a different take.
Not the right take, but it's just a different take.
And I'm all for them doing different things with the genre. That's fine. But ultimately, it's like when you watch this and you think of a giant monster movie, like this just feels right.
It does.
It just feels like yes. He's like,
what's that?
He's like, I got this. Hang on. But I also like how their powers and abilities kind of dictate their anatomy. So he looks like this big, heavy, brawny tank because his entire back has to house like a giant EMP emitter or whatever. So by design, he's big, heavier, so he could store that in his body. So I love how their anatomy is functional too. It's not just because, hey, it looks cool. It's because they have to be able to do things.
But this is all because of fucking the scientist.
Yep. And again, that's something the sequel did a really good job with. How they took this idea of like the link and they ran with it, and I like that.
Yeah, it does make sense for the story.
Because this is like an in that these aliens didn't have before. It's kind of like a Trojan horse, basically. Because they probably would have thought themselves, who would be stupid enough to try to link with one of our monster's brains? No one, they would never do that. It's like someone did it, and they were like, oh shit, can you believe what these guys just did?
Yeah, that's why I love his character, though. He's not afraid of the kaiju. He wants to be, like, inside the kaiju.
Oh, I think that's supposed to represent like a scar when he got hurt. But still, the fact that he recognizes the two-way link, I think he was like a scientist before. I think he was. I don't think he was just nobody. I think he was probably somebody. Honestly, probably worked for the government, the kaiju programs. Because think about how long this has been going on for, and look how old he is. So he probably worked.
Technically, there's a lot he could have done. He could have been a scientist for him.
Yeah. Look at this. Oh, I love this. When I remember, I could not believe when it was 2013. Kid who grew up watching these kinds of movies on VHS tapes back in the 80s and 90s. Always being a niche market. You know, this is just something me and a few other weirdos liked. And there I am watching a big budget Hollywood movie, and I'm seeing this happen. A giant monster destroying buildings in a movie theater in the United States. I was just like, wow. Like, it was so weird that this thing that I always kind of felt was like my little thing was now like this big awesome thing that everyone loved.
I love this whole scene too.
Yeah, those doors, shit.
But it's like you saw what happened to the wall.
Oh yeah. I think it's more or less just to make people feel better. And that's the other thing, too, I like about kaiju films is that the reason why kaiju are kaiju and they're so big is because, you know, we used to be afraid of things like, you know, lions, tigers, like lions, tigers, and bears. But now that we have guns and we have nukes now, things that can destroy the world. So there are no more creatures in the world that make us run and hide and fear and cower in the ground like we used to. So kaiju now kind of reduce us back to a state of, like, primitivism. Like, we are now the creatures scurrying underfoot now. We're like rodents now, essentially.
Well, we have to use like our greatest strength, which is our intelligence.
Exactly.
I guess we do something really stupid.
I love that. I guess we'll go out there and do something really stupid. Could you imagine seeing that right there? Could you?
I would have like
let's shoot a flare
that
at
latch
it.
like 2 inches and just kind of like. I wouldn't have actually gotten out
like,
of there.
Nope.
I feel like he wouldn't even.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I don't even think that would have pissed him off.
It wouldn't faze him.
I kind of feel that would have been a funnier joke. Like, all right, this is a suicide for let's do it. They shoot it. No reaction. Doesn't even like register.
That shot.
I know.
Backlighting everything.
So right here, the reason why Guillermo wanted those helicopters above it, he wanted to. If you look at a lot of the old boxing posters from like, you know, the 40s and 50s, you had the old promotional boxing photos, they would always have like the two fighters in the ring, all black with just a spotlight on them. Yeah, and he said for this scene here, he wanted to look like an old boxing poster where you got your two boxers with the spotlight on them.
And it makes sense. That's the only way to make it work. Like,
yeah,
to have the helicopters.
Exactly, because he was.
I always thought it was weird that like 4 helicopters are carrying this thing that's probably weighs way too much.
Well, it's like when you see like Mechagodzilla, like in Tokyo SOS, when they're flying, the ships are like, I'm like, why? Like, how the hell those things like carrying him? Oh. Ow. By the way, we saw this movie in IMAX.
So awesome.
And that shot was amazing in IMAX. I was like, oh my god. Yeah, this is the Guillermo getting out of the bathtub shot he was talking about.
There's nothing graceful about that.
Yeah, exactly. He's saying this thing should not look sleek. This thing should not look elegant. This thing should just literally just be like, look how heavy this is. Like, boom.
Yeah, when you think about it, it's like a fresh-born thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like these things are raised to fight. They're getting used to how they work a little bit.
Oh, yes. It feels so good. It's so... Look at him. Yeah, get it. And I like to... It feels like a fight. It's not an action sequence. It's a fucking fight. These guys are brawling.
They don't bust out, like, missiles right off the bat. They can't waste them. They have to, like, wait for the moment to strike with a lot of their stuff. I love that part about it. How they're not just, like, going in, shooting, like, guns everywhere and firing missiles off. No, they
Well, also, these are
time.
older Jaegers, too, so they didn't really even have this.
Yeah.
So these Jaegers literally were basically built to be tanks. They were built to just dish out punishment. I feel like this kind of... Look at... I love that. I feel like these kind of fights are probably why in the second film they designed the Jaegers to have more long-range capabilities. Because they saw, like, yeah, it's really beneficial if we can maybe fight these guys from afar. Because that's the thing, Gypsy was not built to fight Jaegers even of this caliber.
Yeah.
So that's why this is a struggle.
Have I watched too much Critical Role? If I can hear Matt Mercer, like, narrating this
Oh my god! That would be amazing! Put this movie on mute and have Matt Mercer just narrate the... Oh my god. I would listen to, like, a movie on tape kind of thing where it's just Matt Mercer narrating the whole movie. Yes! Mr. Mercer, if you're listening, I'm just saying. By the way, I love how gory this is. A lot of people don't realize how gory this movie is because the blood is blue. But look what they're doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just shot that fucking arm off. That looks so good.
But one of the things I found out a while back is that the way you can get away with a PG-13 versus R is if the blood is not red, you can show as much of it as you want.
It looks like a rave right now.
Well, yeah. But that's the thing. Dude, there's guts and blood and guts throughout this entire movie. But if it was all red, this movie would be rated R, they said. So if you're wondering why the stuff is always blue in different colors in these kind of movies, it's because they want... Huh?
The water coming off of everywhere.
I know.
The attention to detail. It's amazing.
I mean, look at this. This is a bloody, nasty mess right now. Look at that. Just pieces everywhere.
Jesus.
But again, it's not red, so it's not considered gory by, MPA standards. This would be so scary.
Mm-hmm.
I almost think it's less scary running to the bunker because you feel like you're being proactive and doing something. But once you're there,
I always feel like if something like this happened, I wouldn't want to be with the crowds. I want to like hide in a closet or something. Like if their goal is to kill people, they'd go for the crowds of people. Don't want to be there.
Even though, why would they believe him though? Realistically, like, why would you?
I mean, why wouldn't you though? Too, maybe I don't know.
Yeah, there's no way that
anything to make the kaiju not come after you. They might be frightened enough, Oh God.
I know. See, that's what I'm saying. That would be like, oh God.
Put the glasses on.
Just to know that it's right above you too. Okay, he's like,
He's not moving, dude. He's just looking at it.
He got his wish.
He's gonna go after it. That's why I love this man.
Oh Jesus! See, this just basically feels like a big predator just rooting around in a little like gopher hole, just trying to get its food. That's what I'm saying. Like, kaiju just reduce us to just varmints, basically.
Cattle.
Yeah, it's incredibly humbling. Oh, I love again. Every time they showed this in the trailer, I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
They're There was probably people.
This is
on
so
that,
anime
though.
with that music playing.
I know. Look at all the lights too. It's so bright and colorful. This just feels like a cool kaiju cyberpunk anime from like the 90s.
That's something we need.
That is something we need. That entire combination of words that I put together
Yeah.
might have been like the greatest thing ever.
Like they had that like way back when, but we need that to we need resurgence of that.
Yeah. Seriously, just do Pacific Rim the anime. Hell, even if you just remake this movie as
I
an
know.
animated series and just
Done
flesh
in,
it
like,
out that way.
Castlevania style or
Yeah.
whatever.
Because I hate to say it, but I don't know if we're going to get a third Pacific Rim. But I would just be like, just do an anime of this. Like a reboot of this, even. Just in anime format.
I could take anything from this. Like, from this...
Universe.
Specifically the first one,
Yeah.
like, that universe.
Yeah.
I could see more. A lot more. Especially, like, prequel shit. I'd love that.
I know, because there's so much that came before. Like, it's about, like, what? Almost like 20 years worth of material, basically. Like... Crowd chat. Gypsy Danger kind of walks like me a little bit. Just throwing them shoulders around.
Yeah, I mean, he's the least graceful, right, out of all the kaiju. He's the oldest.
What, you mean Jaegers?
God damn it, yeah.
No, Cherner Alpha was the...
Oldest.
Well, I guess, yeah, now Gypsy's the oldest because there's one of two left. But yeah, Cherner Alpha, the Russian one, was the oldest. They said. I think they said that was, what, a Mach 2?
Something like that.
Gypsy's a Mach 4, and Strike Eureka is the only Mach 5.
Oh, okay.
God, I just love how they just walk through buildings. They don't even like knock them down. They just walk
straight
through them.
through
Like the
them.
building is just not even an obstacle. Oh, yep.
I'll take that.
God, that tail.
I know. Again, I love how they have to use all this shit on the Jaeger just to like they have to utilize all the in weird ways just to like survive. Because again, this is not the machine for the job, basically. So they have to get creative.
These are big monsters compared to them.
Yeah. Again, these Jaegers were not built to fight kaiju of this size.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so here's why your fucking walls wouldn't work.
Remember how, like, when we first saw this, we were like,
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I completely forgot that this thing started flying.
This just feels like Rodan right here, which something tells me was not a complete coincidence. Look at that. Oh, I love that shot. Just how... Could you imagine seeing something that big fly, though?
Oh my god.
I can't. That's why I was, like, thinking about it before. Like, that thing is huge. They were showing it being that big lump. How can it fly? With
Yeah,
those
well, the wings would need to be a lot bigger. You're going to see it next year with Rodan. Love this. Yes. Sword. I would use that all. That'd be my
Yeah, I don't
go-to.
know why that
Yeah, it's
wouldn't
kind of
be
weird.
your-
Yeah, that we first see it now.
Yeah, that would be my, Look at that shot with the sun. Oh, God. This movie is essentially like art porn. Like, you could not give a shit about, like, kaiju or mecha, but just from, like, a purely visual standpoint, if you're, like, a concept artist or just an artist in general, like...
The attention to detail.
Yeah,
is
like I'm
just
saying,
fucking amazing.
This movie is just one beauty shot after another. And even in the most mundane scenes when people are just talking...
The lighting, the frame.
The contrast and
Everything in the
yeah.
background, too. Like, you look at the background and, like, the most beautiful shot is just there in the background.
Oh, God.
I know. Go!
Fuck you, sports.
It's funny, when I was thinking of a sequel initially, I mean, I guess they restarted the Jaeger program because, hey, you never know. I guess Kaiju could just come back. But I kind of figured, like, basically, if the Kaiju are defeated or the breach is closed, they were going to start basically making big gladiator tournaments with the Jaegers.
Yeah.
Like, that's how they were going to basically keep the Jaeger program going, turn it into a sport. And it'd be like that movie Robot Jocks from, like, the 80s, where people were in these giant mechs, and they would, like, battle in gladiator tournaments.
It's a very expensive sport.
Shit, who wouldn't fund it? Could you? I would be. Hey, let me.
You'd have like one Jaeger per country. Maybe.
Yeah. And you have like a World Cup, but instead of having like a team, you have like the Jaeger. So here's the thing, people. I don't like sports at all. If they made giant robot gladiator arena sports, like I'd be into sports. I would officially be into sports.
Right.
I would watch the shit out of that. And hell yeah, I would try out. I would like, sign me up, coach. I'm ready.
I feel like somewhere in the world there's people wearing robot suits fighting right now.
Oh, they definitely did have that one fight between America and Japan. That first one they did.
Huh?
They did a giant robot fight.
Huh?
You didn't hear about this?
No.
Yeah, they did a giant robot. I mean, they weren't as big as these guys, but they did like a giant robot fight. They were kind of rudimentary, but they were piloted by people. And it did so well that they were like, they want to continue it and make it a sport, and they're going to try to keep pushing and advancing the robots. I'm just saying, like,
that makes me happy.
This is I want to live in a
future.
I want to live in a world. I want my children to grow up in a world where people battle in giant robots for entertainment. And then eventually we can genetically engineer giant monsters to throw them in for fun.
Do you remember that comment I made earlier about how you would create the kaiju and the defense committee?
Yep. I did both. I play both sides of the coin. Make life a little bit more interesting, folks.
Aww. And back to real life.
Even though a lot of people are wondering, like, I mean, you could just have a nosebleed. I mean, that does happen.
Well, I'm sure for her, she's seen.
Well, she knows, but
And I mean, he's seen her vision of him coming out of the Jaeger.
Oh,
and they all know that the Mach 1s or whatever were bad for you.
Yeah, because they didn't have any radiation shielding. And again, that's why I would love to see a first generation like story, because again, they didn't know. I like the idea that no one really knew what the hell they were doing. They said we scrapped these things together
Because we have to.
Yeah,
That's what I love to feel about. In this movie, it feels like they need to do all this stuff. In the second one, like, I don't know, that last kaiju fight, they just felt like they were just destroying the entire town and everything.
Yeah. But then again, too, you could always chalk up they were cadets, basically. They didn't know what the hell. These were not, like, seasoned pilots. They were just like, See, the fact that he knows all this shit. Like, oh, like, you pump up CO2, like, most likely surgery. It's like, how the fuck do you just know that, dude? Like, that's my...
Years of kaiju harvesting.
Well, that's my point. I think he has a background in something. The level that they keep dropping little hints of things in the movie that implies that, yeah, this wasn't just some dude that just got into this. This is a guy who got into it because he had the know-how. He had the skill sets. He knew what to look for, what to harvest, how to do it. He had a skill set that probably few people would have had. Because otherwise, why aren't there a million people doing this? You know what I mean? It's like, nah, he knows what to look for and how to do it. So he probably
But it could just be like, because there's money there. Like, you just
well, that's why he wants to do it, but
his
the knowledge and how he knows what to do. I think he just initially would have signed up, and people like, all right, you guys have the money, and you guys have the equipment that I need. I'll tell you how to get this stuff. I'll tell you how to harvest this stuff if you provide me with the tools. And I think that's how he started making his money. Because
I want to believe that he was like running like an underground drug ring, and it was just like kaiju came along. He's like, that's more money there, and went that way.
Yeah, but even people who run drug rings, a lot of times they're chemists. Look at Book of Breaking Bad. Like, He knew how to make this stuff. You know what I mean?
I don't think that's the case most of the time.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying I think. I don't know. I get the sense that he was a bit more in the know. He just runs off. He's like, "Bye."
I know what happens now. Aw, little baby kaiju.
Big baby kaiju.
Little baby kaiju. So cute.
And it's also interesting too. Now they can self-replicate. They can kind of reproduce on their own. So it's almost like a new mechanism for the kaiju. Right? If one fails, it can reproduce another one to pick up where the other one left off.
It's like Prometheus syndrome.
Is it because they have human knowledge of reproduction now?
What?
It was Prometheus syndrome. He just ran in a straight line.
Oh yeah.
Is this also because God damn it, Charlie Day's character? They they know the anatomy of like human reproduction or something, and they like put a baby inside it.
I don't know.
This brand new kaiju.
I would not touch that.
I think it's just basically meant to be like if one kaiju falls, there'll be another one that'll sprout
But
from it.
they've never seen this before.
Yeah,
right?
this is new.
Oh wait, no, Chow was kind of ready for it.
Well, I think he kind of figured out when
So
you heard
this
a
has-
second heartbeat, he was like, "Oh shit!" I think
Okay,
he
yeah.
knew like that must be an offspring. But yeah, that way, think for the alien, they don't have to keep sending another one after. Like this one fell, well, instead of sending another one right behind it, this one will just produce another one. Oh. Wait for the credits. Wait for the credits.
I mean,
Oh. And I was bummed too, because again, I love Ron Perlman, and I was like, oh, come on!
Swanky ass shoes.
I know, right? I know that's a digital shot, but it would have been awesome if they just built a giant prop for like the dead one.
sorry I didn't come and tell you, my best friend, first.
I know.
Obviously.
Why didn't you tell me? For the same reason I don't tell you any other shit I don't tell
Yeah,
you.
because you're a fuck up.
And I'm your boss. It's kind of sad too when you think about it, too, for like those first generation pilots, how they were essentially just expendable.
I mean, they signed up to fight kaiju.
Yeah,
They know
but
what they're
it
getting
really
into.
showed you they weren't. But see, back then they weren't rock stars either. They were just basically thrown in a meat grinder. And then when they started becoming famous, well, now they start taking care of these guys. Now they make sure they're safe. Now they make sure they're healthy. Now they make sure that every precaution that
I
can
feel
be
like they
taken
were
is
still
taken.
rock stars then.
Well, yeah, but that was back when they thought
Just
they
not
might
as
lose.
widely, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's
It's
the
not
thing.
commercial or like as it feels here.
Well, yeah. Well, I think Riley's generation, probably his, was the last generation where they signed up not thinking that they could actually die or lose. They signed up just being like, hey, you know, let's be badass and fight monsters. Fight monsters, not potentially be killed by monsters. So their generation was more like, yeah, we're the rock stars. You know, people love us. So they want to keep. What happens when you have a celebrity? You want to keep them healthy. You want to keep them looking good. Their generation was like, oh shit, monsters are destroying the world. We got to quick throw some people on the front line to protect us. So they were just like, yeah, fuck all this other shit. Just hurry up, put the robots out there, get them to fight, start protecting us. So you realize that their generation was more like, you know, the fuck you, get out there and do something generation.
I love how excited he is. To do
I know,
this
he's
right
like
now.
living the dream right now. He's like, oh shit.
He's got his lab out there.
Typing just. You got a friend in me.
So sweet.
It really is. Again, some people thought this was dumb or corny. I love it. Again, this whole world is so wacky and kind of just weird. It makes sense.
Yeah, it brings down the tension a little bit.
Yeah, and again...
Because they are going pretty over the top.
Well, yeah, and again, they said this is crazy. This whole fucking world is just batshit crazy. This whole world is bananas. So, it's like, go for it. And I love that's what Guillermo does. Guillermo doesn't half-ass it. Guillermo's like, we're going for it, man. Look at this.
This looks so good.
Look at him. Oh my god, has there ever been anything more badass than Idris Elba walking out in that suit?
The answer is no.
I look at the other guy's face like, fuck, he looks way cooler than me.
It's so sad.
I do got to say though, I think John Boyega was a great pick to play Idris Elba's son.
Oh yeah.
I would have just loved to have seen these guys in a scene, those two in a scene together.
Do they ever have a flashback or anything?
No, I was hoping they would. Maybe. Oh, here we go. The speech.
Yeah.
This was like this generation's Independence Day speech.
I know.
When I was growing up, the whole like, we declare today our Independence Day was like our speech, the big movie speech, and then this came along, and I'm like, oh my god, they did it! Canceling the apocalypse has become the new. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day. That's our.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember goosebumps when I first heard this.
That's the kind of speech I would love to like give my kid before they go to like a spelling bee or something.
Jesus Christ.
And they're like, and they just be like, "What the hell, Dad? Like Jesus."
Except for today's your spelling.
They're like 7 years old. I just need to learn how to
spelling bee so hard.
They just I just need to learn how to spell a 3-syllable word. Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Oh God, no! I hate this goddamn scene.
What scene?
The scene between the douchebag and his dad.
Why?
I don't know. It's just really cliche.
But think about it. Put yourself in their position. Like, your son might very well be going off to die. Like,
yeah, I just wish they just didn't show it. I don't know. All right, I just hate it.
I don't know. I like it. Again, I like how the dad even says too. It's like, you know, you spend so much time inside your head that sometimes
things don't need to be said that all.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay, all right. It's all right.
It makes sense though, because think about it.
does.
You probably would forget to just have a conversation with somebody because you would just assume that
everything's known.
Yeah, but it's almost like it's not about saying it to know it. It's about the
act of actually doing
yeah.
it.
It's kind of the thought behind it. So it's almost like, you know, if I ask you, "How was your day?" Well, you know how my day was. But the fact that you're asking me means you're taking an interest in me. Although right there, though, obviously they didn't have this whole thing planned out by this point. But in hindsight, when you know that he has a son, and you see like a father and son signing, and you know the things he made, it makes the sequel. The sequel almost gives this movie a bit more weight too, because when you see Idris Elba's character watching this father and son say goodbye, it kind of makes you wonder, like, okay, character-wise, in terms of the canon, like, I wonder if his character is thinking about his own son, like, you know,
yeah,
what I never got to say to my son, like the regrets he probably has with his son. And again, this wasn't in the movie at all because at the time that character wasn't even a thing. But I like to think back now in terms of like a continuity, like. In that moment, his character is probably thinking, like, you know, I regret what happened between me and my son, and now I'll probably never have the opportunity to say that because I kind of think he knows he's gonna die.
It makes you not hate him as much, but
because I think Pentecost knew he was going to die. I think he knew that something was going to happen and that this is not going to just be an easy.
Oh yeah, he knows he's going to die.
He knows something is going to go wrong.
Even Mako knows he's going to die. It's just because his body can't even handle it.
Well, yeah, so he knows one way or another. He's saying the last goodbyes he said are going to be those last goodbyes. God, I love this movie. I saw a bunch of images of him being rejected in school by girls. Crying in a corner in a fetal position.
I can relate, my man. I love this stuff, though, how they go through, they do these little mini montages of someone's life. So where was the Kaiju's mind? What did they...
Convenient toilet.
College. I think they were seeing a lot of math and calculus. So basically, from their perspective, that's the thing. I think it's if anybody else had gone in, they might not have understood what they were seeing, but because of their background, they recognized what they were seeing.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of math and stuff like that. Like,
I thought that was just because like they're both nerds. They just sing each other's math.
But because they're both nerds, they can kind of read the writing on the wall. Like if we were confronted with that information, we might not know what it is we were seeing. We would see the stuff, but it wouldn't mean anything to us. Like, oh, what did you see? I don't know. I saw this and that. I don't know what it means, but I saw it. Whereas them, they understand. It's like a language. We can all, if you don't read, I don't know. If you don't read Portuguese, you can still look at Portuguese written down lettering and writing.
You're reading too into it. Like I feel like they just saw like a picture of like the checkout thing that they talk about, where like you need a kaiju's like ID to go through. Like that's all they saw.
Hey,
like they didn't see all these like fancy alien like programs and different calculations.
Hey man,
I don't think they can read alien handwriting.
Well, I don't think they can read it, but they can understand mathematical concepts.
I think they just saw like the door. And like the kaiju being born and brought through the door.
Listen, I agree with you, but I think there's some math
if you want to
there.
Believe that,
I think maybe
go ahead.
Maybe there's some fractions
I think
involved.
the human numbers they saw floating around were from their other nerd brains.
Some some multiplication, some division thrown in there for good measure. Maybe a word problem or two. I don't know. I'm just saying. Hey, that was my interpretation of the movie.
Just saying you're wrong.
Okay, well, to each their own. Boom. It's cool seeing Gypsy and Stryker like next to each other. You can definitely see like Stryker is way more sleek and modern looking. Like, look at her. Yeah, Stryker looks more like a modern, like anime mech kind of design.
It still looks all battered and used up on the inside, though. Rusted and shit. Or no, scraped.
Still a little bit more polished, though, by comparison.
Yeah.
Also, if you look at a lot of the tech, it's smaller inside. It's less big things.
Refined.
Yeah. Yeah, theirs looks a lot more like industrial on the inside. Third signature emerging from the bridge.
Triple event.
Yeah, they did a measurement of this, and technically this one was bigger than the two more recent Godzillas. And then they came out with the...
bigger than Shin?
A little bit, yeah. And then they came out with Godzilla Earth, which is now, like, I think the biggest kaiju ever.
How much? Is it like 2 times bigger than normal or 3 times bigger than normal Godzilla?
Oh, Godzilla Earth?
Yeah.
He's like 4 or 5 times bigger.
Oh, okay.
The tallest Godzilla prior to that was Shin. Shin barely reaches Godzilla Earth's knee. The distance between them and that hole was 300 meters. Godzilla Earth is taller than that distance. And that actually, in lengthwise, that wouldn't even include the tail. That's just him standing up.
Damn.
So if you laid him out, like from nose to tip of the tail, he'd probably be about like 500 meters. He's mass.
It's interesting they didn't use the chainsword in the new movie. The second one.
They
just had the plasma canyon.
Well,
They
no,
had
no
swords.
Yeah, no,
They had 2 swords.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the new Gypsy Avenger.
Listen, I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm dumb.
Yeah, no, Gypsy Avenger had 2 of them.
Yeah, I forgot.
I was just wondering why we didn't see the sword come out earlier.
Again, that would have been my go-to weapon. I would be going out there every day with that sword. And I
understand why missiles and stuff like that you don't fire right away, but a sword,
well, because in theory, if your missile misses, there could be collateral damage, especially if you're fighting in a more urban area.
They're really cautious with their projectiles.
Yeah,
but just like a sword, I feel like you just always have that out.
I'd be going out Jason Voorhees on Kaiju with that thing. I would just be hacking away.
Ooh,
I know. I love that thing's mouth.
I've got a face in my face.
He's wearing a turtleneck. Yes, my child. Blood.
Oops. It's cool seeing them in the water too, because that was always the one thing in tokusatsu kaiju films where it was hard to do is underwater fights.
Yeah.
I mean, usually they would have to do them as like fake outs, where they would make it like a set, and they would kind of blow stuff in the air to kind of make it look like little things in the water.
Or they did the thing where they put like the water tank
in front of the shot. They would like a very thin tank of water, like a couple inches. They would blow bubbles up in it and put it in front of the guys in the suits. And so basically
no depth to it. It's just kind of looks like it's through water.
Yeah, so it's basically between the actors in the suits and the camera. Which, again, back then, that's all you could do. But that was the one thing in kaiju films they often struggled with is underwater stuff, because the suits were too heavy to have them swimming around in, obviously. So that's one thing that CGI is really good for.
Oh my god.
Is kind of, because which is kind of cool, because a lot of kaiju come out of the water, and yet we really don't get to see them in the water too much, underwater, what it's like. So I think this.
Well, most of the time you're not fighting a kaiju underwater.
Well, yeah,
you're
but again,
defending your city.
But just to kind of see them interacting in an environment, because that's the other thing too. When they're in the water, usually they're kind of like it's their
that's
downtime.
Their home turn too. Like, you know, they're gonna swim faster than whatever you've got down there.
I know. And the red here on Idris Elba is supposed to kind of represent, like, again, anytime she's dealing with her loss or her family, it's red is always used, and because she's going to lose her other father figure now, it's highlighted in red. And again, and it's things like that you probably wouldn't even pick up on him unless he told you. But the fact that he bothered putting that in as a visual detail, it creates layers to his films.
You keep saying red, I can like just clearly picture the little girl with the red shoe.
Exactly, yeah, and then that's the point.
So contrasted to everything else.
And that's the point. Anything that's linked with the kaiju and loss for her is highlighted in red, and it's a constant theme for it. I mean, like you said, it's a bright color you don't see anywhere else in the movie. So when red comes up, it's very
the whole scene is really white and gray.
Yeah.
Aww. Oh, this part.
Yeah. I love how
fucking awesome.
It blows away all the water.
Yeah.
So right now, there's no water. That's crazy. Imagine being at the bottom of the ocean and there's no water. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, even more crazy, it all coming back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The weight of that would just be insane.
Here's my thing, though. And
the attention to details.
I would have liked to have seen or heard about something like this. That would have created a tsunami.
Yeah.
that would have literally have created a tsunami right there. So I would love this. There's I love that. Again, Gypsy Danger just feels like a blue-collar fighter. She's just always so rugged and damn.
The other guy had like 2
Yeah.
and missiles all over him.
She's hauling shit around. Let me just point out that thing took a nuke blast point blank range. I want to point that out real quick.
Yeah, there's no winning against it, right? Maybe not.
Oh, I love that. Damn. Ooh. Again, the fact that this is a set and they're blasting them with water and all this shit. Again, I think as actors, you gotta love this. Because you're giving them something to play off. You're not just being like, okay, scream and yell, we're gonna add it in post. It's like, no, we're gonna just blast you with shit. Yeah, I know a lot of people say they like working with Del Toro because he creates like an on-set environment where you can really play off of it. So right here, Guillermo del Toro is a big H.P. Lovecraft fan. He's been trying to make At the Mountains of Madness into a movie for since he got into the business. Now that he won another Oscar, he might get his chance. But again, the fact that it's this weird in between dimensions, it almost looks like it's alive. This makes me think of a lot of Lovecraft stuff.
I almost feel like he shouldn't have let them get out of here.
Make this like an actual suicide run for them?
Yeah.
Well, initially he wanted to do a sequel with them, and he actually read the first draft of the second script. The film was going to be called Pacific Rim Maelstrom, and they were going to be like the main characters in the movie.
Not Pentecostal at all.
No, but when they had to change things and scheduling, they had to kind of change the story a little bit. But again, I like the idea of Pentecost essentially having like a wayward son.
Yeah.
And again, John Boyega did a great job. Like he stole that movie.
I still haven't seen that movie. Either of them.
What?
Did you say John Wick?
No, John Boyega.
Oh, I don't.
John Boyega played his son.
Yeah, in the second one.
Yeah,
I thought you were saying in some other movie. Like that's why they chose him for that movie. I don't know.
Well, I think they chose it because he was in fucking Star Wars.
Oh. I haven't seen that either.
Oh my god. I should edit that out so the comments don't explode with rage for you. I'll shield you, my child. Oh, I love this. And also in the sequel we learned that these aliens are called the Precursors too. So I like how they give them a name. I would just love to be in a movie where they say action, I have to do this.
Do that. Actually do it. You're not there's not green screens everywhere and you're just picking up props.
Pantomiming things yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, I'm in a cool armored suit in a giant mechanized set with shit breaking down. I have to open shit up and pull. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is like what I used to do as a kid, playing make-believe, and now I get to do this for real.
I just feel like you shouldn't be allowed to get out of here at this point.
I love how
that door be locked above him.
I know for the third movie I love this shot right here. I know for the third movie they said Tonight wants to go to the Precursors world and spend time there. Mm-hmm. So I would love for them to see it, but boom.
You don't think there's going to be a third one?
Unfortunately, the second film didn't do financially as hot as they would have liked. But again, I think streaming media is the place where it's going to be. I think streaming media I think we're seeing a transition from film to streaming. I think this generation, more young people like to stay home and watch stuff than go out to the movie theater. So I think, again, I think if Pacific Rim 2 had been a Netflix original, the exact same movie, I think would have been the most watched thing on Netflix. You know what I mean? But I think movies are getting... It's so expensive to go to the movies now, and there's so much competition.
I mean,
you have
I
to
still feel like they're decently popular, right? Like,
oh, yeah, they're still decently popular. What, you mean, like Pacific Rim?
I just mean movies in general.
Oh, yeah, but
instead of streaming. Like
but you are
going to movie theaters.
But you're seeing a change now. They've even said, though, they've noticed a shift, a dramatic shift. And they have actually already projected that movie theaters are going to kind of die out within the next 20 years, maybe. Or at the very least, get severely diminished. Or maybe only really, really big, high-profile films will end up going there, a.k.a. everything owned by Disney. So your Marvel movies, your Star Wars movies, but other things will, like this, will now be like, you know, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, you know, that kind of stuff. Which, you know what, it's fine, because I think the streaming format allows you a lot more flexibility too. Again, I would love to see this as like a 6-part thing to make it even longer.
Yeah. To just build up those one kaijus, one, god damn it, Jaegers, so that when they die, it's like it means a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. You're not as restricted. So, if I get more of this kind of stuff, I'm happy. So if that means going from the big screen to the small screen, whatever, man. All I know is I would totally watch a 6 or an 8-hour version of this movie.
Especially if they put this much detail into the whole
exactly. Thing. And Guillermo del Toro works with Netflix. He's even said it. You know, he sees the benefit of that format. So you have some directors I know now that are a bit kind of snobbish towards that kind of thing. But I don't know. This is the direction we're going. So I don't think this is the last time or the second film will be the last time we see the Pacific Rim world. I think we're going to see it in another format, one way or the other. And I would totally be down. I love these guys. I ship these guys so hard.
Dude, they make the movie for me, those two.
I ship that dog and his leg.
Ew.
Shut up.
The movie's way too serious without those two.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they're in there. And they're fun characters. I think this is the only time you see blue skies in the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's like now that the war is over, it's like you get clear skies.
Yeah, the kaiju are gone. Your
world's not being
fucked with anymore.
The world almost looks normal now. Like you have like a real world like aesthetic. So it's almost like that which made the world weird and unrealistic is gone. So now the world gets realistic again, which means
Makes
hey,
sense.
Bring back the monsters.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's gonna be a little mid-credit sequence here. So I'm assuming you haven't seen it. Oh, okay.
I mean, I thought Chow was dead.
No, well, originally he was going to be, and then they decided to add this little bit coming up in because they love this character so much. They just couldn't bear to kill him off. So they shot this little bit with him so technically he was alive.
They just couldn't deal with him being dead.
Because he's so cool. Like, I don't want to picture a world without... a Pacific Rim world without Hannibal Chow. Like, it's... And again, if they had done the whole Jaeger Gladiator thing, I just pictured him like, okay, taking all the money he's made off selling kaiju part and starting his own Jaeger franchise, like, you know, like his own team.
With his own brand on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he just switches markets, basically. He was like, okay, there's no more kaiju. I'm going to go from being, like, a illegitimate to, like, legit and just run this big...
Yeah, that's kind of in the second one. There's, like, the black market kaiju. Fucking Jaegers.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Yeah.
Again, I would have looked at a scene, but I know they said they can do a third one. They want to pull back, like they want to explain what happened to Riley's character, why he wasn't in the movie, why he wasn't. And I know the Knights even said too that he has regrets about like some stuff he had to leave on the cutting room floor where it was more weight. Originally, there was going to be a whole funeral sequence for Mako when she died, where they were going to have like the Jaegers doing the salutes around her at her funeral. But again, budgetary reasons, they said they had to cut some stuff out. So some of the things that we were saying, oh, why didn't they do that? Like, he even acknowledged himself. He said a lot of it was out of his control, you know, studio-wise. But at the same time, I kind of feel like, man, but if they had put that stuff in the movie, it would have even, like... Sometimes you got to spend money to make money, folks. But, again, we like the second one, and we'll get to that one, rest assured, because it's still a fun movie.
Yeah, it's nowhere near this one for me, but it's still good.
Again, man, Guillermo del Toro is a hard act to follow.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure these are all the digital models they said they used for, like...
Yeah.
Here we go.
Bro, I saw you get, like, chewed on.
Yep, there we go. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace!
Bye-bye. Peace.